Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Bonnie Violet, trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain.
And I'm Pacey, trans masc, non-binary, mental health and recovery advocate.
And welcome to Transjoy Boise, where every story, laugh, and act of joy is a stand for our community.
I love it. We uplift bold voices, share real experiences, and celebrate trans lives thriving.
Tune in, connect, and spread the joy because trans joy is unstoppable. Yes. We talked about how great we did it too.
Yeah,
too much at the beginning.
It's come a long way though.
Yeah, in a short time.
I know. As somebody said in our comments, is like, you could learn your words or something. There was like some people are very. I know someone said they're no longer going to subscribe to us because we have the captions on the clips. I'm like,
see you later. Okay.
I'm like, bye. Thanks for letting me know. Like, I thought it was weird too.
Yeah, but that's so.
They just said it was too distracting.
Okay.
And I was like, I guess it's not for you.
Well, it's probably really distracting if you have like an auditory processing problem.
I don't want to be like in like, but like it's helpful for some people. And then there's also like clips that don't have it. So like there's also like, because if you watch the full episode, you don't see it. Yeah. It's just like in the little.
Yeah.
Well, so you just get used to captions.
Yeah. Exactly. I do make them obnoxiously big.
Yes. Yeah, no, I do too.
But I think it makes it kind of interesting. Anywho, we're talking like there's no one else in the room.
Yes, we have another guest with us today. And would you just like to introduce yourself to everybody and kind of tell us about you?
Yeah, my name's Blake Hunter. I'm a non-binary writer, lives in Boise. I do journalism and find a lot of passion through writing in other forms. I started a literary press last year locally, so that's what, I spend a lot of my time doing that. And I'm just trying to survive and thrive as much as we can.
Oh, that is so cool.
Right?
Yeah, I am going to have a lot of questions for you, I'm sure, even outside of this.
Okay,
when
please.
It's not, it's so off topic. But that is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why, that's partially why I wanted to have Blake on. Is I met them. We met when we were doing the march last year.
Yes.
And I met you because you were interviewing for like the CityCast Boise.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we just kind of like from the get, it was just there was just like this click. It was like, okay, we'll do what we got to do.
Yeah.
But then it's like we want to talk more.
Yeah.
And so luckily we've been able to have coffee a couple of times, and just made sense that we would have Blake on here once we started having guests.
It was a classic. Yeah. So I write the Hey Boise newsletter for CityCast Boise, which is like a local podcast. It's part of like a new network across the country. But it was kind of a classic, like could have been like a 15-minute interview, a 20-minute interview, and then we talked for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Just like also from Magic Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that history. So
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Native Idaho, and
I love that. Like some of the connections we've been able to make just by doing this work have been so valuable and just fulfilling, honestly.
Well, and no wonder why the world thinks we're taking over.
Yeah.
There's so
that part.
There's so many of us.
There's so many of us. And also, I think that all the time, where sometimes, I get not as much anymore, but when I first started like the newsletter and also just like being out trans in Boise, like you hear things, like you get told things. But sometimes when they say things, you're like, well, actually, you're right. We are kind of trans.
Yeah.
Like you should be a little bit scared. Like love you, you should be a little bit scared.
Yeah. It was like last week I was meeting, and just like, again, it's like I'm constantly meeting trans people I didn't expect.
Yes.
There's like a pink rifle group.
Yeah.
And it's ran by a trans man. And I got to meet him earlier this week. At the same time, I ran into another trans person who is a clown, and they both want to do things. And so it was just like really exciting to kind of like, we're just all over, and it's really kind of cool to have opportunities to see folks in these different lights, if you will.
Yeah. And I think that also in my experience in the past like couple months in like early 2025, I just feel like a lot of people, trans people especially, are like, and this is definitely not true of like everyone, but a lot of people that I know are like stepping up and like really actively taking up more space, because I think it's become very apparent that like, hiding will only keep you so safe. And also I feel like people are just very connected to like future generations right now, and just thinking about how we can move forward and like create a path forward. And I feel like a lot of trans people are like, at least that I know, are really like, okay, this is the time to start speaking up.
Yep, and lots more people I think coming out who've been stealth.
Yeah.
Being more visible. I think it's interesting where there's a lot more visibility and in time that it seems more scary. Not to say that there are some folks,
of course,
who and we're all having to actually kind of be a little bit mindful about when we're visible, how we're visible, where we're visible. Yep. All those sorts of things are something that I think about a lot more than I'd like.
Me too. I mean, I write, like I said, and I don't want to talk about like my job like that much, but like I write a daily newsletter with like thousands of subscribers, and every time I send out an email, it's like, do they know that I'm trans? But also like wanting to communicate that with people and be like, just so you know, you ate at that really good restaurant because I told you to. Yeah, trans person. Like, exactly. And also just like I can kind of like speak for the community, but also it's just a constant trying to figure out day-to-day like relationship to that and like what the goals are. It's weird. Yeah. It's really weird.
Well, no, and it's so important that people realize how much trans and non-binary people do contribute to the world that they live in, even if they don't think so.
Yes.
We do.
Exactly, because it kind of forces them to confront some of their preconceived notions that they have about us. Like they think that we are just this caricature that they read about on Fox News, and then they have a conversation about like even like the gun group, or things like this that are just like, no, you're not supposed to like those things. You're not supposed to be like a normal person. You're supposed to be this just trope that we hate.
Well, and that's what worked, I think, for gays and lesbians for the most part. I think more people got a gay best friend and the lesbians next door or whatever, you know what I mean? And because people were more visible and came out and started talking about it more, I think people then started to see the humanity of our community. And I think unfortunately and fortunately, I think we have the opportunity for us to be seen and known. I think one of the things they've always talked about is like representation and visibility matters, but I think being known is the next level and almost more important. And being known is being able to be in a day-to-day life with somebody. So you know what scares them, what they like to eat, what, like where they go and what they do. Like I think we've lost a lot of that just in general, but I think those sorts of connections are becoming even more and more powerful because just being visible isn't enough. You really have to be known.
I think that's really good. And representation works in a market. It's like an economic function or like a capitalistic function where it's just like, are you interested in like the wisdom and culture that trans people can bring you, or are you interested in ways that you can sell them things, but that's a good distinction between like it's time to like get to know people rather than just representation.
Yeah, because it can be very exploitive too. Yeah. And like at the end of the day, we can go and we can be visible and we can be seen as a trans person, maybe even like a brave trans person or like a trans person who's like fighting the fight or whatever, or maybe even more a trans person who's struggling, whatever sort of narrative that comes out. But the reality is we still go home. We go home after that talk. We go home after that show. We go home after where we clock out of work, whatever. Yeah. And then we're stuck with us, and our friends and our family and other folks are stuck with us too. And I think that's the time that people need to, I don't know, see us more, see more of what that part is, which is the variety of our struggle, of our joys, of our being fucking bored at times,
It changes hour to hour.
Exactly. Just everyday stuff for sure. Totally. Yeah. How have you guys been doing with just everything? I feel like, it's been a tough year. And the president's been around for a little while and there's been a lot of shakeup happening with that. I know for me, I found myself, like I had to shut everything off. Like after my birthday, I just I had to cut it. And like, I was like, okay, I'll do. And that was like on Friday. And then on Saturday, I was still like, Sunday, we recorded the one podcast, which was all I did all day. And then Monday, I was like, okay, I'll do something. Tuesday, I'll do something. Yeah. Wednesday, I'll do something. Yeah. And then finally Thursday, I was like, okay, I can respond to some text messages. I can like
Yeah.
get back into the thing.
Yeah. Does that mean like for you? Does that mean like phone is off? Like what does that look like for you when you're like putting walls?
I just kind of shut down. I spent a lot of time on that couch over there. I had to like.
It looks comfy.
I had to have time away from my person. I had that. Like my roommate would come in. I'd be like, which is nothing against her, but like I was just in a mode where I just have to try to shut off because every little thing is just like overstimulated, and so like I get a text and just be like, oh, fuck, can you respond to that? I can't. So sometimes it's that I'm not even looking at it. I'm usually like vegging out on like just crap television.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing good shit. I'm not like reading and praying and meditating, and I'm just like doing nothing.
Yeah.
No, you have a lot of self-judgment with that. You're like, I'm not doing good shit.
I don't think I want to. I guess I thank you for pointing that out because I don't see it as a judgment because I've come to realize that sometimes that's just what I have.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times when I'm on, I'm fucking on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I can get a lot done in a very little bit of time because I've been doing it for a while. So I just have to really allow myself. Yeah. And I've learned that that's the way I work too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I have to go like 90 miles an hour from like 8 a.m. till midnight.
Yeah.
Because I have the energy, I have the creativity, I have whatever, knowing that I might spend the next 5 days doing not much.
Yeah.
But that's just like
that's how it works.
Exactly. That's just how it works.
Yeah, totally.
That's just kind of part of it right now that I've been kind of feeling lately is we've been going for so long. We've been inundated by all these horrible headlines, all this terrible news. And I feel like for myself personally, it's finally having an effect on me. Like, like you go for so long and then finally it catches up with you, because I have been very bad with like resting and taking a break and like ask my partner is like, you need to fucking have a day off because I just won't. And I think that collectively we're starting to really feel the effect of being so heavily targeted, and that's looking like, burnout, having to unplug, having to just tell everyone like, I'm sorry, but fuck off for a little bit because I'm tired. And I think that learning how to navigate that for myself personally is going to be the only way to get through it right now.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Transjoy is resistance. Transjoy is community. Transjoy is here with our weekly social support group. Join us for a welcoming and affirming space where trans, non-binary, and gender diverse individuals can connect, share, and support one another. We will have peer-led discussions, social connection, and mutual support in a space where you can be heard, celebrated, and uplifted. No RSVP needed, just show up and be you. We'll gather every Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. at Roots Market. For more info, click on the link in our show notes. Okay. Garbage trucks. Just keep talking. I know we're like, the weather's been so nice to like have all the windows open. We were going to shut them all when we started, and then we did.
It is nice.
Yeah, because you had to get away for a little bit.
Yeah, because I've been dealing with a lot of anger for different reasons, right? Like, of course, we're all angry because this is so unfair and scary, and we don't know what to expect. But also, like in my own personal journey, I just went through like ketamine therapy. I was happy for the first time in my life. I wasn't angry about things, and then everything just fucking fell apart. So I'm mad at how unjust that feels, but then also everything else. And I think I'm struggling with finding a healthy way to deal with that anger.
Yeah. And it's hard to, I feel like you're pinning it down, like exactly what it is though. It's like, you're mad at how unfair it is. You're mad at like losing your peace. Like you finally found a peace and then it was like taken away from you. And I feel like, that's a very prominent experience for trans people right now. And it's, it's not like things have been super peaceful, amazing, obviously like under the Biden administration, like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not like those were like the good old days,
Right.
but like things have taken such a dark turn.
Back when America was great in
Yeah,
2024.
I know. Don't you remember that? Yeah, I really feel that. I feel in a weird way, like pretty, like I've been able to like equip myself for this, and like I've been pretty prepared for this because I've been a trans journalist and like a trans writer for like 6 years now, and working in Boise, both in my current job and previous jobs. And so I had to learn the really hard way as a college student, working multiple jobs and being in college, how to separate myself from my work and how to separate myself from like the state of politics.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I know how to do it like very well, but it took like years of depression and wondering if this is like what I wanted to be doing with my life to get to a point where I actually I think that I've accepted now that part of my responsibility to my community is resting and taking time away. Is that we are very unpracticed as a society in responsibilities and living for responsibilities versus living for your rights. And especially as white people, I think that like Western people, that's like such a difficult narrative to wrap our minds around. But like part of your responsibility to your community is learning how to rest and how to like take time away. And like that, I feel like a lot of trans people right now are learning that actually that needs to be the top of the list. Like that actually has to be the number one priority.
Yeah. And it often takes us, like for me, it often takes me to where I have to, like I have no other choice.
You just run
for me to get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, definitely. Yeah. It's like, I've really worked really hard to try not to judge myself.
Yeah.
When I find myself in different states that don't always feel good.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I want to like judge it. And part of it, sometimes things don't always feel good. Like sometimes doing well and like progress doesn't feel good. And I think sometimes it feels like if something is really hard or I'm really challenged or I maybe even feeling angry or depressed about something, that somehow it's like wrong.
Right.
And I think that's like when I was younger, I think that's something I really took up and thought like as a belief of mine. Yeah. So I think it really kept me from growing in ways and really seeing my progress. Yes. And I think very easily judging myself.
And actually anger is progress.
Yeah.
Like being able to feel your anger and actually process that.
Agreed.
That is like no joke.
Yeah.
And that's something I struggle with too, is like I have a lot of anger and I'm learning how to process that. I'm learning that it's not something I can do alone.
Yeah.
That's something that I have to like call in the troops for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the other thing is like figuring out when my rest and like recuperation time is not me sequestering myself and being like alone, but actually like, calling a friend, whether it's literally just a call or calling a family member or just being like, hey, will you make me dinner tonight? You know, and like really leaning on support system. Like that's been a big learning curve.
Yeah. And that's what really got me out of that slump was having some conversations, like some really long conversations with some friends I haven't seen in a while. Totally. I feel like that really began to kind of pull me out of that in a way that felt good.
See, I struggle with that a lot. Like and I'm sure there are a lot of people that listen to this that can maybe relate to that. I don't like having to rely on people for anything. And I think I struggle with that in particular because like I have my partner, I have like my family, but outside of that, I don't like to have to rely on other people. And I've been finding that I do feel better when I'm out with people in the community and it helps me break out of myself because I know even when I'm around people and we're not really talking about anything, I'm still ruminating in my mind. I'm still mad about these things. And then I'll have a conversation and I'm like, okay, I'm actually just kind of exaggerating things in my mind and it helps to get it out because I am just so mad, you know, and it's just festering inside of me and I have like autoimmune disorders and it just makes me physically ill, you know, it's like, cut that shit out, but it's hard.
It is hard. Yeah.
And I think I think we do well when we can actually really look around and see kind of like what we were talking about earlier, how like maybe you don't know a trans person did this for you in your life. I think For me, I've often felt alone, or that like I'm fighting all by myself, or people don't get me, or people can't show up for me. And the truth is they've always been around me and they've always been with me, but I haven't always had that awareness of it. So I've really been trying to be really mindful. And it's like, I can list some friends, I can list some chosen family. I can you know what I mean? Like, I know that like, I don't do shit by myself.
Exactly.
For realties.
That's two things that what you said made me think like along the same line is some like tough love that I've had to give myself and that I've like received from other people, and just like messages that I've received is like, just around the idea that, you know, pursuing the idea of doing things by yourself, or like not having to rely on yourself, you're chasing a fiction. Like you already do rely on other people. Right. Like we live in a capitalist economy. We literally rely on the labor of other people to get our fucking groceries, to have clothes on our bodies. Like, you know, we already rely on people in that way, but also, we rely on people day to day. And like, that's a tough pill to swallow. Just to be like, you already do rely on people. And so it's like, you don't have a choice actually. Like you have to rely on people. But how beautiful that you get to choose who you rely on more, and like actually be selective about
and it's so easy to create that distance between that connection of like, because we don't hang out with the person who made our coffee necessarily, or even made the coffee that went to the barista that then made, you know, like even if we're chatting with the barista, there's still how many other people who in the process made that happen for us, right? And I think especially when it gets in these times, and I think especially being trans or non-binary or different, I think it can be really even more difficult for us to really allow ourselves to connect with that which is around us. How do you do that? How do you remember to do that shit? Like get stickies on your mirror.
Maybe something like that.
I have tattoos. I used to always when I first got into recovery, all these people were like putting the little stickers and the affirmations, and I'm a horrible person. So like I was like, I am never gonna be that girl. I'm not putting it, you are beautiful. You're like, and I like, but I'll tattoo a reminder. Be still and know. Silence equals AIDS. Like I have all my tattoos.
Impermanent.
I'm literally they're sticky notes. I just stuck them on my arm.
On my hand right here.
Yeah.
I
I'm just realizing. Wait, that's.
But we're not. We would never put it.
I would never, because that's cringe. Like who needs that? But that's
and yet.
I think. I'm so glad I get a chance to give you shit about this, because one thing that I have to do is I often have to like trick myself into feeling like I'm taking care of other people in order to be taken care of, which I think is what you called emotional topping last episode.
Oh, wow. I did.
You did.
Wow.
I love that.
But I think that is actually like, I feel like in order for me to like be okay receiving care, I at least have to like feel like I'm giving other people care too. At least like that's the premise that it starts at. And that's like, that sucks. Like that's shitty, you know, like that doesn't feel great, but also like my friends don't care and they're like, come on, let's have it out. Like what are we really here for? And I'm like, okay, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like you just have to kind of like fake it till you make it, almost, like in a sense. And it takes so long. It takes 30 days for something to become a habit or a routine. And I think that a lot of this for myself personally, like it stems from trust issues that I have. And I think that having to kind of confront that and be vulnerable is my biggest hang-up, because I really want to rely on people. That's the truth. Like I'm mad because I want to, and I feel like maybe that won't be accepted. You know, and that's something that I don't feel like I have the capacity to deal with right now on top of everything else.
Okay, so something that I actually went through this, like during the month of January, I kind of identified at the beginning of the year, going into the year, that like I was having a lot of trust issues and specifically self-trust issues. And a practice that I started is like, I had a friend who was like an artist, and she made me this like beautiful book out of like paper, like brown paper grocery bags. And I had it for like a year and didn't know what to do with it. And then I started like writing in it, like a promise to myself of something that I would do the next day. And whether it was like super small, like literally like I won't make my bed tomorrow, or I will like make my passport appointment tomorrow. Like some like, you know, varying degrees. And then just like going through day to day and just like building up that practice was like really, really helpful. And what it led me to is the base of self, like trust issues is worth issues and like issues of self-worth. So
yeah,
I'll report back with wherever that leads me. But that's fine.
That's so
but I really relate to like the trust issues.
Yeah,
that's really
and I think one of the things that came up for me when you were talking about that too is like, I don't know about you, but I think I often, it kind of around trust issues, but I think even trust of other people. But I grew up in a way in which most of the things I needed help with, the people around me couldn't help me. They didn't have the answers. They didn't have the skills. They didn't have whatever, you know, and much of my life that it continued to be the problem. And so I had to, get better at being able to meet and be in relationship with people who actually did have the answers to what ailed me or what I was needing help with. So I think that was the aspect. And then also I had to open up a little bit more because I had to be willing to get information from somebody I wouldn't expect because I'd gotten so used to being let down that I just stopped asking and I didn't learn how to ask. I didn't know how to even look like I'm in trouble or like I'm struggling. And so it took like a few years ago, I hit that wall where I was just like, I remember thinking like I was screaming at the top of my lungs, just like, help me. I felt like I was having that in every conversation in my life. And people were like, not even fucking hearing me. And I just had to like realize that like, it's not them.
It's not them.
Like,
you're not actually asking for help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
even if I was like, I've never done it before. And if I did, it was like, I don't know. It's just like, I created this narrative of who I was and I didn't need anybody. I remember telling my mom, no, really, I'm not okay. I almost locked myself up in a hospital this weekend. And she would just be like, oh, you'll be okay. You'll get through it. You always do. And that was that was the narrative though, that I'd always painted to everyone too, is like, yeah, life will be fucking hard for her. She'll get over it. She'll be fine. Next, you know? And that was the narrative that I was proud of. That was the narrative that got me through a lot. And it was something I really identified with until it stopped working.
Let go of it.
And it wasn't true. It wasn't true.
Damn. That I really relate to that a lot.
It's a front that keeps you safe. Like it keeps you strong, and it also keeps you from letting things really get to you.
It's what the world loves. The world eats that shit up. They want a good story, like a good overcoming story, like a courageous story, underdog, all that sort of shit.
And also, even if like staying in that narrative, even though they get that outcome, like they get to see that happen, you're stuck in a place that's not actually challenging.
Well, and you're stuck in a narrative.
You're not actually challenging the power structure.
Totally, And the second you actually start to not be that person, people are like,
that's when it's
repelling.
But
that's why we have to stop.
Opens up other people to come to you.
Right.
That's true.
That's vulnerability.
I had to do the same thing. Like after ketamine, I was able to look at like my former self and just feel so much sadness for that person, but also so much gratitude because that person got me to this point. I wouldn't have survived if I wasn't able to be that person, but also the realization that it's time to let that person go, because it served its purpose. I survived, I made it through, and now it's time to kind of take that armor off and allow myself to be happy, even if that means allowing myself to be hurt at times.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just speak for myself, but maybe other people like trans
you can
folks.
Speak for me too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can speak for
No, I just think that like maybe other trans people like associate this too, but like for me, sometimes it's really hard for me to look back at like older, like past versions of myself with gratitude because like I literally have struggled to look at photos of myself. And so there's like that cutoff, and I personally struggle to access like the love of my past selves that I know that I need to access. Like that is some of the like most serious work that I need to get into to really move forward. But I struggle with it. It's hard.
All in time.
I know.
All in time.
Yeah. It's difficult when things are so hard externally.
Yes.
It's kind of like pick your battle, which is so unfair to have to do that. But it's
like you have your whole life
Exactly.
figure it out.
Totally.
That's what they like say in recovery, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want to fix everything now, and it's like, bitch,
That's
like
true.
you have the rest of your life to
Yeah.
figure shit out.
Yeah.
You know, granted, we can't put everything off with the idea that we have the rest of our life, because none of us are promised tomorrow. But also, like, we don't need to like stress ourselves out about it.
I think that's good. Yeah, I've had that realization recently too, where like I kind of recently came out of like a pretty, in retrospect, it was like a pretty severe like disassociative period, like depressive period through like January and February. I was like still doing stuff. I was like still being part of the community and like getting my work done. And like I'm proud of how I got through it. But like I kind of had a moment where I like came out of it and was like, oh,
I've been
a little checked out.
But I think that was like my first 40 years of life until I started my transition.
For real. But yeah, I think that I recently realized I was like, ooh, I have not been living as if I am promised tomorrow. And I think that like, of course we're not promised tomorrow, but at the same time, I think that I was living so anxiously, particularly in Idaho as a trans person, where I was just like, oh, it just feels like everything could come crashing down at any moment. And I'm a person with a lot of privilege. And like, I don't know, I think that that's something that I feel like trans people, we need to figure out how we want to operate around that, because we are like living kind of month to month right now. And at the same time, like, I think we're bettered, and our missions and our objectives are bettered when we're looking 10, 20, 50, 100 years like down the line. And like keeping all of that in consideration with like the moves that we're making today.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
I'm not that bitch right now. Like,
no,
I've been more of like, what are we doing now? Like, when somebody wants to do something in a month or two, I'm like, it's too far away. You know, like, I'm having a hard time with just a couple months out, but I do understand what you're saying. Like, this idea of thinking beyond just today. But
but also that makes sense. That explains kind of your headspace that you've been in of just go, rest. Like, that is such like that's hard work. And also we need people in that headspace. So
I also think that might be
do we?
one of the I also think it might be an effect that this administration wanted with just that kind of campaign of shock and awe.
It feels like it's fallen out. Doesn't it feel like it's crumbling a little bit?
A little bit.
I feel like all of the intensity of everything is really kind of crumbling, where you have like, I mean, like, even like the thing with Canada, they're like, and they're like, oh, whoa, wait. They're actually fighting back. Or even like that person who stuck up for Sarah McBride. It was like, have you no decency? And I thought it was so great how he was like, well, this is what, like, the guy couldn't even explain why he misgendered her. Like, he couldn't even say why he chose to do that. Oh, well, it's what everyone else is doing.
So I did it too. That's the whole mentality
have
of
you
that
no
party.
Decency. I thought that was
so
perfect.
So well delivered.
Well, and did anyone notice she said Madam Chair? Like, I was like, she served it right back. And she's been so like, I think she's been so like
she's
better than somebody asked me like, how do you feel like, what do you think about her? I was like, I don't think anything. Like, I don't know what it's like to be in that position. And I think however way she decides to move forward is great. I feel like she has respect and honor for the position that she's in, and she wants to honor that and show respect to that, regardless of people acting a fool around her.
I think that she's just class. She's a class act when it comes to anything. Like, the way that she's treated is just horrible. It's disgusting. But she handles it with such dignity and class that it makes the people who are being rude to her look so childish. And I think that is probably the most upsetting thing to them, because because they're bullies.
And Zoe Seffer out of Montana, and the other non-binary legislator who I only just learned about, they've all had success in swaying Republicans' votes when it comes to anti-trans legislation, which has been really cool to see too. I think people are just dumb.
It's getting scary because I feel like I've been reading a lot about people that are like, oh, I regret my vote, like, farmers, whatever. But I think that the people that are sticking with Trump are becoming increasingly volatile and dangerous, because they're the ones that are in it for whatever fucking Nazi rhetoric they have. Like, they're behind him 100%. So even if that group gets smaller, they're going to get louder. And those are the ones that are really concerning to me. Those are the ones I don't want to run into.
It only takes a handful of.
Exactly.
They feel cornered, and they, of course they've cornered themselves, so like congratulations, but they feel cornered, so they're going to bite harder. And I agree. I think that there has been a little bit of a die-off because of that. Like there's been some more public shaming of people, whereas like, well, you look like an idiot because you can't even say why you're being trans.
I think there's exhaust though.
There's
I
exhaust.
think anger is finally coming out, frustration.
Betrayal.
I think people are just
I think it's
like,
also,
I'm done.
Yeah, I think that it's like everybody's so over like Elon Musk.
Yes.
Like, more people are getting over Elon Musk that like even a few months ago they're like, yeah, I can like his company. But at the same time, it's hard. We got to figure out the optics of it though, because like these two toddlers, we're always going to like fizzle out. But they're still in power, and there are these national corporate lobbies that are steering the whole thing behind the scenes. And so it's, it's not like the actual momentum of the broader scope of transphobia and racism and everything is like dying off. It's just that these tactics, the kind of like shock and awe tactics, are running their course.
Fear only lasts so long.
Yeah.
That even works in sex education.
Literally.
Yeah, they're like, don't
Just
scare
keep
people
going.
about sex or scare people about STDs. Just educate them.
Yeah.
Because fear only lasts so long. Because you do it so many times and not get pregnant or not get a disease. You're like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then,
Yeah.
boom, you got gonorrhea in your throat.
Yeah. Again.
Exactly. For the third time this year.
See, I think that like going back to the idea of community, I think is going to be super powerful. Just because like we were coming up with ideas for just mutual aid with resources, just being together. Like in the video I posted about the pharmacist that I encountered that was really phobic and gross, I've had some people say like, well, I'll go with you next time, and these are people that are like, would stand up for me if need be. And like, when I was just in McCall with my partner and when we were coming back down, we stopped by Gold Fork Hot Springs, and I couldn't get in because there were all of these red hats, basically like this big guy with like the stereotypical beard and the American flag tattoo, and they were all sitting in the water just staring at me, just waiting. And I'm like, okay, this is not a safe place, but I know if we would have had like a bunch of people, it might have been different. And I'm so sick of instances
you needed
like
somebody
that.
to be like, have you no decency?
Exactly.
Literally.
I need Jerry. Was it Jerry Connolly?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, we really got to travel in packs right now. I think that is genuinely, that has been providing me a lot of comfort too. I feel that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of non-trans people. We often talk about allyship and what allyship looks like and how important it is. And oftentimes it's non-trans people that are.
How have your relationships to your like cis friends and allies shifted over the last like 2 months?
It's pretty separate. Like on the one hand, like the ones that are great, fantastic. Rely on them for a lot of things, and they ask me for advice on how to be good allies. And then the other people are sort of the ones that still have their head in the sand and are thinking like, oh, well, maybe you're overreacting. And I'm at a point with them where I'm like, we're done. We're just about done, because it's dehumanizing at this point to have to try and justify my reactions to these things.
I feel like I've been working so hard the last, because I'm still 4 years into my transition myself, and so everything, and just being back in Idaho a couple of years and everything. I think I've been really working at just creating a community of folks that I think often have been trans and non-binary and queer folks. Totally. I don't know that there's too many. I mean, the guy that I'm seeing is cis. My mom's cisgender. My aunt is cisgender. Those are people that I connect with on the regular. But most of my friends and the people I choose to spend time with often are trans, non-binary, or queer, or at least very much they might as well be to some degree. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They're still in the community in some sense.
Yeah. Like they're a family member, or they're, I don't know. It's just it's not, like you said, it's just I don't have the capacity to educate, to show my humanity. Like I just don't have the capacity for that as much anymore. And there probably are. It's just people around me. I'm just not as attuned to it right now. You?
It's funny. I kind of asked that because I feel like I've been leaning on like cis people more than ever lately. Actually, I feel really, really lucky to be in like kind of a chosen family of mostly queer, but like mostly cis with like, you know, a few exceptions. That is like they're just educating themselves oftentimes. I mean, one of the things that, you know, I follow the state politics pretty closely, and so I've had to budget that, and so the outcome is that I don't pay attention to national politics as much because I just don't have time, and I've lived in the headspace of trying to keep track of everything all the time, because that's kind of what you're expected to do as a journalist, and I've had to just turn that part of my brain off. And so oftentimes I have like cis friends who are like, did you see this happen? Or like, you know, it's in another state, and like I keep abreast of like specifically the trans news in other states, but not a ton outside of that, to be honest. And I don't know, I feel particularly in the past like few months, I've had like cis, like there are 3 friends of mine that have come to mind that are like cis men who have actually like, I'm like coming to them for advice, and it's bizarre, and I've never done that in my life before. And we're talking about gender, and they're talking about like working through their own gender in those conversations, and it's been, I don't know, I think that has been genuinely one of the most pleasant surprises of like the last few months for me. And again, it's because they're doing their own work, and they just they care about me, and they love me and other trans people, and they understand what transness means to society and like the power that it has. And I think that that's the key, is that like they might not get everything, and there may be some things that I don't share with them that I do share with my trans friends, but they get the power behind it. And that's important to me, because I feel like I need to be surrounded by people who understand the power of transness.
And there I am surrounded by cis people like that. I just don't think I see them as those people. I'm awful. I'm cis blind.
The house.
No, because when I'm thinking about it, I was like, oh, there's plenty of my close friends who are cisgendered. They might be queer or not, but like,
it's easy to kind of just, it's funny to just
it
not
blurs.
It blurs. Everything just feels so loud right now that it all kind of blurs around you.
When people see me, I don't feel like I have to, I don't know, like I don't feel like I even have to be a trans person to them. You know, like in the sense that they know I'm trans and they know what I'm going through, but I don't know. So I think that that's part of that, like, once you know and become known with one another, our transness or our whatever, it's just a part of us. And it's a significant part of us in some aspects of our life, but not our whole lives. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, and so many of my friends, cisgendered friends and beyond, are just going through, so many people are going through so much right now. It's like, it's wild, because I feel like life is hard in general. And then you have all the politics stuff and everything else that's happening. And it's just like, it's a lot. I think that was part of a little of my falling out, was I was trying to show up for other people more than I could too. And I wasn't taking care of myself. And so it was like a combination of like a lot of things. And I had to be like, girl, you need to make sure you're still, you know, doing what you need to do.
And there's always, like, that's a constant issue. Like, you'll always be coming back to that, and you'll go through periods in your life where you're able to nail it, it feels like, and that's where you're going to struggle with, or at least that's how I feel. It's like, I feel at a better balance of it now, but also,
well, with balance, oftentimes you just have to widen your lens. You know, if you look at, like, say the last few days, your balance could be way off. But if you look at it over the month or the year, it might make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just, like I said, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that right now we're being forced to realize that we have to take breaks, because it's just not sustainable to keep going at the momentum that we've been.
And for me too, it's like, you know, pursuing like progress, whatever that means for like trans people, or like, you know, that cannot be my 9 to 5, my hobby,
Yeah.
and in my friendships,
Mhm.
and in
Yeah.
my alone time, my rest time. Like, they can't be everything.
No.
And that can always be like, you can contribute to that goal through a lot of different things in a lot of different aspects of your life. But yeah, I've learned that it can't be everything.
Yeah, it can be hard.
That's fair. Yeah, it's so hard to separate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
At times
it is. Yeah,
because it's our life.
yes,
And it's surrounding all of us. Like I'm the same way with keeping up on the news. It's just every time I look at my phone, there's something horrible. Or anytime I talk to someone, they're like, or even like posting it on my Facebook page. I'm just like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I've been like, this conversation has got me like thinking. I'm like, I have been living, like I finally got things worked out to where I see the doctor on Monday to start my trans healthcare again, and the HIV doctor April 1st to start my HIV care. And like, it took me a while, I finally sent in my application for Medicaid, which for whatever reason, I just was
like
balking on. And I think part of it is maybe I was just so focused on living in like today and the now, and focused on that urgency that I couldn't really think further. But as soon as my tits started getting smaller and my shape started to go, and I started to get hair in places a lot more than I wanted, and I was like, I don't think I'm like, at first it was like, okay, I can do this, and after a little while I'm just like, no, I don't want this anymore. And I'm still here. Like, we're still here. Life is still happening. And so it's so wild how, for me, like, I can feel like I'm doing all the things and yet like be missing on so much, and again, it's not like a bad thing or a judgment. It's just like, I'm now at a point where I think widen my point of view and think a little further than tomorrow or the next day.
Life is just, it's not a list of check boxes to mark off. Like, it's you have to find the beauty and the joy in it. So
I feel like I've learned a lot in this.
It's been nice.
We got doomy and gloomy to match the rainy weather outside. So.
I loved it.
But I thought we also I think there's some good shit in there.
Very real. Like I don't know, stuff I would talk to my therapist about for free in the house right now.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know. I mean, we didn't know what we were going to talk about, but I knew we'd be able to talk about something. And I feel like, and I think part of it was for me, as I just feel like the three of us might be at a similar spot in where we're at and what we want to talk about. But I think a lot of people are kind of in this similar space of maybe being able to just adapt a little bit more or make some changes or have some realizations. And so it just kind of feels like it makes a lot of sense. I know, like, even when we're thinking about our cafe that's coming up in a couple of weeks, we try to design them each time kind of with what's happening. And like this next month, we're going to have the Pink Pistols there to talk about gun safety and protection rights. And we're going to have like access, how are we accessing gender affirming care and still name changes and notaries for marker changes. And then we're also going to have, what else? We're going to maybe help people learn how to stick themselves, So I think it's really kind of also showing that there's a variety of experiences that we're going through right now and that a lot of us are seeking more support in. So I'm really looking forward to
this is amazing.
It'll be a good one.
The broadening of our lives.
And just kind of the idea that this is like normalizing this, because I think for the last couple months there was still this hope in the back of my mind, no matter how unrealistic it was, like, it'll go back to normal. But now this is normal, and we have to learn how to maintain our lives at this.
Normal.
And that is what it feels like, that it feels like the foundation has kind of been laid maybe for the rest of the year, kind of, if we're lucky.
It's like the new normal. Really.
And so
kind of like after the pandemic, and we all came back and we're like, okay, this is life now. It's completely different, but it's our new normal.
And there's new opportunities in it.
Trans people having a normal.
No thanks.
I know, right? The second I'm normal,
let's call it.
I'm failing.
Literally, that's it.
I'm failing.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Genuinely loved our conversation. conversation.
Yeah. Me
Yeah.
too.
Might have to have you on again sometime.
Definitely.
I would love
Yeah.
that.
And I
Yeah.
can't wait to ask you questions about your job.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah,
Anytime.
and I'm sure you appreciated not getting to talk about that.
I
a
did.
little bit. I know.
Mm,
But yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks everyone so much. Check out we have a lot of cool shit coming
Yeah,
up
we do.
with we're having our first book reading
Mhm.
with Michael and Angie Devitt, who
Yeah,
are
the
the
authors.
parents of Eve.
Mhm.
And so Finding Eve, they're going to do a reading. We're also going to do a live podcast recording
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
the couple.
That'll be fun. That's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So you can watch the live stream
Uh-huh.
next Thursday on our YouTube channel, or you can just watch
Yeah.
it like you usually do.
Mhm.
But I'm excited about some of the things we're
Yeah.
trying out. We were in a comedy club last
Yeah.
episode.
I
The
know.
lighting was a choice.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
I was
and
just here to just follow up the comedy episode. Like, what did you think?
I think it was
That's
great.
tough.
I think
Yeah.
you did great.
No, y'all are doing
Yeah.
such amazing work, and I'm so glad that this feels like, I know it's difficult, but this feels like right on time for Boise,
Mm,
and I've just been getting a lot out of it. So I say
Nice.
thank you.
thank you. I think it's been grounding
Yeah.
for us too.
Totally.
Absolutely.
It's at least like once
Yeah.
a week we're like getting together and we're just like stopping and being
Routine.
still. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's kept us a little
It's a little ritual.
grounded,
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been
tethered.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very tethered.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
All right.
Well, we'll see you next week.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, bitches. Oh, wait, we don't say that, right?
You can say whatever you want.
Okay.
Right, I know. You usually say that after the.
Mm-hmm.
after
You
we
usually
figure it
say it in the recording.
out. Sometimes. I know they used the word tranny last time for the first time.
Yeah.
Or no, actually, it was a couple ago.
No, it was
It was before the comedy show.
oh my god, it was
Was-
Nixon.
Was it?
Was it with Nixon
was
or
with
was it
Nixon,
with
yeah.
Jenna?
Hmm.
I don't remember. Or no, it was with Carrie. Was it with? Oh my gosh,
I feel like it was
we've had that many episodes
Yeah.
since Nixon.
Weekly is a lot.
'cause I feel like it was I remember it. I just don't remember.
I know because it was like a.
Yeah. And then you
And
just
we all
let it
were
fly
dying
multiple
laughing.
times.
Yeah.
Crystal.
I feel like it was Jenna. Well, I mean,
Yeah, 'cause
last
the-
episode was Tranny Shack, so I
Right.
mean it was tranny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're gonna have like a pretty good turnout for people wanting to do
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
And
I
the
feel like-
workshop is gonna be fun.
Yeah, I feel like tranny though has kind of fucked up our algorithm a little bit.
Yeah.
Only on TikTok, Instagram,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, tranny.
Yeah.
But like
that
TikTok, they're
for
like,
Instagram. Yeah, that makes sense. Like TikTok is like a safer
no room
space.
for nuance.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And Instagram's very
It's getting
Angry.
gross. I woke up to a lot of puke emojis this morning on that one.
yeah.
I think we both were on that, right? Yeah, there was like a whole bunch of puke
For what?
emojis.
Yeah.
For,
Just an
A post
Instagram
from you?
post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then there
Lots.
was another. Yeah.
I've been getting a lot of those. A lot of like violent ones too.
Yeah.
Just
Jump off shit.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like we're gonna wipe you off the planet, or blah 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 blah. And it's
Yeah.
like all these fucking tough guys.
Yeah.
You know, and fucking keyboard warriors are they're very tough.
This one I
They're
looked
very
at
nasty.
and they would look like they were a bunch of fags.
Yeah. Yeah.
ain't that just
Uh-huh.
the way?
Right?
It is.
God,
Yeah,
I was
it's
just like,
damn.
fucking projection.
Yeah, it is. It's so much internalized crap.
But even all right, there was one on my page that was a trans guy and was like going off, and the only way I could get him to fucking shut up was saying basically like, I know that no one listens to you
Yeah.
in real life, so I'm going to provide you a space to scream into the void. So
Yeah.
like let it all out.
Let
And
it
then he was
go.
just like,
He's like,
shut
damn
up.
it.
It's like,
Yeah.
But it's that is the one that was the most upsetting to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can you be so delusional
Mhm.
that you think
Oh,
that
and so
you're
hurt.
right? Yeah. Oh, and they were a very angry person. And I was just like, okay, get
Yeah.
why this comment, you know, that was so, but it's that same meme that I
Mhm.
shared that went so viral. I
Mhm.
get so many people that are just furious about it,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
every day.
Mhm.
Talking about anger, I mean, like the way that social media has refracted and changed the way that we deal with anger is like psychologically like needs to be studied. Like
No,
it's
100%.
and it
does.
Yeah, because so many people just get off on it. They don't take it. They don't take it that serious. Really,
They don't take it
either.
that seriously. It's not, like you said, it's not an actual taken seriously as an opportunity for like actually processing. Like that's not what they're looking
And they
for.
don't think about how it's going to impact the person on the
No.
other end. They think they're just playing too, like it's a fucking Pac-Man game or something.
Yeah.
It's just like a.
Yeah, some of these trolls are just like, some of these people are just so hateful
Mhm.
that I think they're the people that do think that it's just like a game, but I think there are some people that really get off on hurting people and like bullying people, and you know, you see it at every level in our society.
But all that comes from somewhere else.
I know that
No.
that's the thing, is like that focusing on that really wakes up, like, I don't know, my belief in like humanity starts to crumble if I like fixate on that too much. And you just like, and then once you go and get into that headspace of being like, oh, people are terrible, people are like, you know, inherently unable to do XYZ or don't want to, then it's like, well, then you kind of become one of them. Like,
Well, and you have to like,
God,
I think you have to meet with compassion,
mhm.
but you can't just like, I don't know, like what do they got? Like you can't like spiritually bypass it. Like, oh, they're just not well. Like,
That is true.
because there's a
I
certain
think I
level
do
of
that.
there's also a certain level of accountability
Right.
that I think we owe it to one another as well too. And so it's like that part can be a little bit harder for me. I can be more of like, oh, whatever, they're not well, or they're like, you know, they're hurt people hurt people. But like, but then it's like, but how then do I stop them from hurting people or hurting me? You know what I mean? How can we transform that?
It's
hurt.
I struggle with it a lot because I get so mad at these people because they're so hateful, they're so ignorant, and their ignorance is dangerous.
But
they're weaponizing their ignorance, and it's spreading, and I get so fucking mad that I am just as hateful as they are. And that's probably
because it's
my
transmittable.
biggest,
like you can receive it from other people.
Totally, yeah.
Like, and it gets in you, and unless you get rid of it, it's just gonna
it feeds. But I'm open to it. Like I am not at a point where I can just not. I fucking take
I don't think it's
bait,
healthy to not either, though.
But
like,
that's a hard balance.
You have to fuck with it a little bit. Like in order to really, truly, especially with like if you see it, you have to fuck with it somehow. You know what I mean?
What do you do with it?
Oh, right now, I try and channel it into activism, with like the work that we do, the work that I do, but I try to be prepared. Like it kind of instills this sense of urgency in me to be prepared in case shit hits the fan. But other than that, it festers. It is festering inside of me, and it is coming out at people that don't deserve it, people that I still don't think are good, but they don't deserve that. And I have never been that hateful of a person. I never want to be that hateful of a person, but
you're taking it in
so much.
You're receiving it. You're going to transmit it unless you transform it.
And I just
that's a huge.
Do you have an art practice?
A what?
Do you do any art?
I do. Oh yeah, I write.
Okay.
I'm a big writer. I do a lot.
Why didn't we talk about
your
this?
and your videos are really helpful too for you too.
Thank you. Sometimes because sometimes I get
you
fucking mad. It helps to try and get other people kind of up to date on what's going on and prepared. But with my own work, I have such perfectionism. Like I have been in this place where I've just been stuck for the last couple of years with writing because I'll just sit and stare at a page and I won't even start. But
I know something about that.
It's very frustrating. So, but I used to really let it bleed into my writing and into my art. But I feel now in that sense of everything's happening right now. You know, where I'm unable to plan, I'm unable to do anything other than just react and survive. Right now.
And it's not even you don't even have the option to opt out, like of participating in the feedback loop. Is that where you're at?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
What's your big three? Sorry.
My big three?
For what? Like astrology.
Do you know? Oh, geez. Yeah. Let me think. Okay. I'm an Aquarius.
Okay.
What's the other one's called?
The rising.
Rising.
And the moon.
Rising is Scorpio and moon is Pisces.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Mhm.
You need to go to the river. You need to take this finger to the river. I think.
To the river?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Mm.
So I used to go to the river whenever I was coming down after my ketamine treatments,
Mhm.
and it did help.
Okay.
Mm.
I could go to the river. I do
Yeah.
feel better.
Yeah. I was in a drone bath yesterday, which is a
What?
like a sound bath basically.
Oh,
So this artist recorded water that was coming either to or from or just in the Boise River itself. He had like a hydro mic and also just like did field recordings of the river at different forms of water, and then it was layered with bass. And then there's just this whole room. It was at the Commonwealth in Garden City, and it was just a whole room with like 4 speakers and a speaker in each corner, and then it was just played, and you just kind of like laid in it in the sound, and it was like super meditative, and just like I had a lot of anger come up because I'm like I have a lot of water signs. Water is like what I go to for transformation, like healing, and so it was really strange. It was just like I was like vibrating with like anger, and I'm like lying still, and it was just because like I had a lot of anger that just needed to come up at the moment, and so just like focusing on the water and like picturing it and just kind of being surrounded by the sounds of it. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
That like getting into meditative stuff and sound baths and stuff has been a really helpful way to transform some of my anger recently, but I'm very new to the practice of like actually moving my anger and like doing something with it rather than just being like,
See,
freaking out.
that's so bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll try that for sure.
Yeah, you should.
It's
Yeah.
I can feel it poisoning me.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can, it is actively poisoning me. It's turning me into someone that I don't want to be, but I feel almost helpless to it.
Totally. Yep.
And
Yep.
that also makes me mad.
Well,
it's this horrible
Your
cycle.
working out and stuff is probably a place where you let a lot of it out.
Yeah, that does
Yeah.
help. But then I'm also at the gym and I have to wear like a big hoodie because I don't feel safe
So
there.
it brings up
And then I
all that.
remember like why I want to get big because of like being harassed in public.
Like safety.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm unsafe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it does help. It's like, yes, but
but not.
yeah, it helps
Not
in the
fully.
moment. And
Kind of lets a little steam out.
Yeah.
totally.
I think there's a real need for like functions, like gatherings of some sort for trans people, like getting into our bodies.
Yeah.
And also like exercising, but also just like being in your body and
Yeah.
like inhabiting it fully.
That's the other thing we're going to
yeah.
try to do at the cafe is
Okay,
have
cool.
like either yoga
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
volleyball or
Mhm.
something depending on the weather.
Because just being in a room, like mostly we're all trans people in that, like doing something like that, I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah.
You know?
So liberative in
Yeah.
a lot of
I
ways.
can't
Yoga
even
would be
imagine.
good, right? Like
Yoga would be so
yoga.
sick. I'm so down.
Yeah.
Xander does it, right?
Xander does do yoga.
Oh, yeah.
We should see
Yeah.
if Xander will do it.
Yeah, I asked him about it months ago
For-
if he would be interested because I wanted to set up actually like a workshop on anger.
Okay.
And this was months ago. I think, yeah. And he said that he was really into it, but we never like nailed down
Yeah.
the details because I wanted to talk about anger like at the beginning of it and then do yoga.
Because we could probably tentatively schedule it outside, and then if for whatever reason it's not nice enough, we could probably move it into the church.
Yeah, because if it's warm enough, and if we wait, you know, will eventually be warm enough because that church has a really nice like courtyard. That's where we had a wedding,
Cool.
not outside, but at that church.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
And there
have
are
a lot of
different
really
venues,
great
yeah.
space, and there's other venues for sure.
Mhm.
Cool.
Awesome. I should turn this off.
Okay.
Big news, Boise. We're building something incredible. A private community for transjoy Boise is set to launch next month. This is your chance to sign up and get in on the ground floor. We are creating a space for connection, support, and growth, and we are looking for members who want to be a part of something special and professionals passionate about hosting webinars, leading in-person events, moderating discussions, and sharing expertise to enrich the trans community. If this sounds like you or someone you know, don't wait. Fill out our form located in the show notes and help us add value to this vibrant space before we officially open the doors.